Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Tom and Nathan both sent me a story out of Wisconsin, and this is kind of scary. First Alert investigates. Waupaca County Sheriff testifies reports are routinely altered. Routinely altered. The story is from WBAY Channel 2. Sarah Thompson wrote it. And what started out as a trespassing call involving a suspect in Waupaca County led to an hours-long court hearing in which the sheriff testified under oath that police reports are routinely altered and deputies don't always know that the reports have been changed. So deputy fills out a report, files it, someone else changes it, and they don't tell the deputy, which makes you wonder how accurate these reports then are. So it's prompting the district attorney to notify defense attorneys across the state with the potential of dozens of cases being thrown out. And now you also wonder about the cases that have gone before this one. First Alert Investigates has been looking into this for the last week. They learned that late last week, nearly 80 defense attorneys across Wisconsin received a Brady letter from the Waupaca County District Attorney. And a Brady letter is the letter that the prosecuting attorneys send out and, in essence, put the defense on notice that there is a witness in this case that is deemed to be unreliable, and here's why. And that is a death knell for that witness and the ability to use that witness. So district attorneys are legally obligated to tell defense attorneys when an officer is found to have been untruthful or lied about something in a case. That's a Brady violation. That can greatly impact a case and in some circumstances get them thrown out. Because as you might imagine, many of these cases hinge on the testimony of the police officers. What we're talking about here is far different, much bigger, with the possibility of many Brady violations because according to the testimony by the sheriff and a detective captain, police reports there are routinely changed. Now, there was a hearing on this, and the testimony is interesting because in a video of the hearings that Action 2 News got, a defense attorney named Kate Drury questioned several members of the Waupaca County Sheriff's Office regarding a police report involving her client and a search of his car. When Detective Captain Thobaben told you she altered a police report, what was your reaction? And the sheriff then said, when she said she corrected the report, we do it all the time. So the sheriff doesn't say that it was altered, he says it was corrected. So the attorney then says, and you do corrections to substantive facts of police reports all the time? And he said, we do corrections to incorrect reports draft, he said. The report sent to the DA's office reads in part that the attorney's client's car would be towed and taken to the evidence garage to be inventoried and searched. But the defense attorney found another report, which she says was the original, with the same sentence continuing to say, searched for any possible evidence relating to past thefts with the client. So that whole phrase was missing from the official report. According to testimony, when a detective discovered this and told the original deputy working the case, that deputy said he did not know his report had been changed. So let's say I am a deputy. I fill out a report and I file it. Let's suppose there's something that's wrong in the report and it's brought to my attention. I would say, oh, hang on a second. And I would do some kind of addendum to the report to indicate that, oh, I had said this, but I meant to say this. But when someone else looks at it and says, oh, there's a mistake here, I'll fix the mistake. The first question you ask is, how do you know there's a mistake? Were you there? If you were there, why didn't you file your own report? So that began raising questions about how often this happens. Drury asked the sheriff, and so your opinion is that it's the policy of the Waupaca County Sheriff's Department to change the factual observations of the author of the report when it's appropriate. And he said, no, we don't. We don't change reports. We correct them. That's the sheriff testifying. And they can correct them in a way that will remove evidence. And he responded, no, we don't correct them in a way that removed evidence. We make sure they're accurate as to what the officer did, the sheriff said. At the end of the hearing, the judge ruled that there is, in fact, a problem with this, despite the fact the sheriff was just saying he corrected the reports. So at the end of the hearing, the judge made a ruling. I'm not at this point in time necessarily inclined to identify an individual in the sheriff's department was involved in a Brady violation. I'm more inclined to find that the department as a whole, from the sheriff on down, Waupaca County Circuit Judge Ray Huber said. So it's not just the sheriff, it's not just one or two deputies, it's the entire department. Now, the TV station did call Sheriff Wiltz by phone, and they spoke to him, and he told them, "We do everything according to policy," and he holds his officers to the highest level of integrity. He says he's working with an attorney and expects to release more information later on. Now, the Waupaca County District Attorney, Veronica Isherwood, gave a statement where she said, "The right thing to do is rarely the easy thing to do. My legal obligation is to notify defense attorneys, and I have done so. I and my staff will continue our hard work and do everything in our power to seek justice for victims and protect the community from harm while honoring our legal obligations and the constitutional rights of defendants." So here's a prosecuting attorney who is saying, it's not just my job to get convictions. It's my job to prosecute people and honor the legal obligations and the constitutional rights of defendants. So as you can imagine, if you're going to trial in Waupaca County, Wisconsin, and the sheriff was involved, that's in the story here, and there's a report, the police often pull the report out and refer to it in court. And as you can imagine, on cross-examination, the field day attorneys have, when they get to ask questions like, that report that was filed and that's in your hands right there, was that altered by anybody after it was filed? Isn't it true that your department routinely alters documents after they're filed? Isn't it true that a court actually ruled that you guys do that? And it goes so deeply to disrupt the credibility of the sheriff's department that I'm really surprised that, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Because this does so much damage to the sheriff's department that you wonder how effective they can be going forward with this sheriff in charge. Because right now, across Wisconsin and the other states in America, other sheriffs are going, "You did what now?" wait, you did what? And I assure you that other sheriffs would say, "No, that's not what you do." So if somebody, a sheriff's deputy, responds to some call and he's got to file a report, he fills the report out and he signs it and he files it. And the idea that someone else can take the report and correct it without talking to the deputy who filed it is insanity. And the implication is obvious that they're correcting the reports to make them look better from their point of view, which of course is going to make it look worse for the defendant. But if what they were putting in the report was true and accurate, one, the deputy would have already done that. And two, if it was an oversight, the deputy would rectify it, him or herself. But the idea that someone who wasn't there, wasn't involved, didn't send a report is going to correct the report is absurd. It's absurd. So the actions of this sheriff are going to wreak havoc on the prosecutions in this county going forward, and it looks like it's going to mess up some that are in progress right now. And as you can imagine, if you were recently convicted in this county and a sheriff's deputy testified off of a report, or you're an attorney who represented somebody who was in such a situation, this right here is something everyone's going to be looking at because of the possible grounds for appeal. So it's a crazy case, but we've heard stories before about a rogue police officer who does things that get them in trouble, and they have to notify defense attorneys, say, by the way, this one particular officer's got this problem. This judge has said it is actually the entire department from the sheriff on down. The entire department. That is a big problem, my friends. So Tom and Nathan sent it. Thanks a lot. Sarah Thompson wrote it. First alert investigates. Waupaca County Sheriff testifies reports are routinely altered. WBAY Channel 2 wrote it. And thank you, Justin, for the pronouncer. I called around to a bunch of my friends last night trying to find somebody in Wisconsin saying, how do you pronounce this? With my luck, it's going to be like Wupicha or something, but it's Waupaca. And by the way, I've had several people ask me very recently, so I feel the need to comment on this, where people say, Steve, I like your videos, but I like to do other stuff while I watch. That is, I listen to your videos. Is there any way I can listen to your videos without doing it on YouTube? And I used to mention this quite often, but I haven't in a while, I guess. All of these videos that I've shot are available on iTunes. iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Podbean, any place that podcasts can be found, Lehto's Law is available there as a podcast. And that would allow you to listen to them in order, for instance. So you could just start at one spot and just start tracking or whatever it is you want to do. And I actually know quite a few people, like truck drivers, who would prefer to do that because it's easier than having to press buttons on a YouTube app. And I know that people do this because I get between 5,000 and 10,000 downloads a day off of iTunes. So there's that availability if you're interested. And just to let you know, there's no advertisements on the podcast. So if you want to avoid the advertisements on YouTube, listen to me on iTunes. So there you go. The podcast is available. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. No matter how short or long your journey to your accomplishment is, if you don't begin, you don't get there. Beginning is difficult, but unavoidable.